Good afternoon, colleagues, and good afternoon, members of the media. Today, the leadership of the African National Congress, led by the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, is leading a delegation in a bilateral meeting with the Congress of South African Trade Unions, COSATU. We are here at COSATU House on the substance and the symbolism of renewed efforts at strengthening the revolutionary alliance that we've enjoyed over the many decades of struggle. And of course, the part of the ANC, I am joined by my dear comrade who's speaking on behalf of COSATU. But I must say that on the part of the ANC, we are looking forward to the deliberations that are currently taking place. Some of the items that the ANC is going to be presenting will be the recently adopted Economic Action Plan, adopted by the National Executive Committee of the ANC, and seeking to get feedback and seeking to get a sense from the Federation about how they feel and whether that does address the concerns of workers and the poor and the improvements that we must make there too. That's just but one of the many items. Of course, we're also looking forward to hearing from the Federation about plans to celebrate and commemorate the 40th anniversary of COSATU later in the year. Those are some of the items that just at a high level that we are going to be looking at.
COSATU?
Yeah. Look, I think first it's a welcome opportunity. The ANC is our alliance partner, it's the leader of government. And I think it's a chance for us to reflect on the state of government, state of public services, municipal services. How can we improve them? How can we really help deliver that better life for working class communities? It's a chance for us also to raise concerns about the performance of the economy. A high unemployment rate, high poverty rates. What can we do to protect vulnerable businesses? What can we do to give more relief to workers, to create jobs, to get the economy moving? Of course, we also have local elections in a year's time. The state of local government in many areas leaves much to be desired across the country. So what can be done in the next 12 months to really fix municipal services, to really improve the quality of local government? And the ANC is the leader of the alliance, it's our alliance partner. So it's also a chance for us to reflect on the state of the alliance. How can we further strengthen it? How can we further unite it? How can we help each other on the renewal campaign? So it's something we should do much more often. It's been a bit of a while, so we're hoping this can have much more engagements, but critically beyond sharing views and ideas and more importantly solutions, it's just implementation.
All right. I'm just going to ask, I do have a question, but for the sake of our cameras, they actually are picking you from this side. If you can just focus as you respond, yeah. But from my side as ENCAs, I just want to understand whether the issue of the party to go it alone, independent of the ANC, you've just alluded to the fact that the ANC is the leader of the tripartite alliance. Has that found expression in this meeting? And from the workers' point of view, what is the way forward in terms of who the workers will support?
Yeah. So COSATU recently had a central committee meeting last month. We discussed the issue of the ANC, the issue of the SCCP, and our bottom line is we want to unite the alliance. We want to continue our relationship with the ANC. We want to continue our relationship with the SCCP. They both have different roles to play. They're complementary roles. But I think the message from our workers, from our delegates at our central committee is that we must unite the alliance. We must meet with the ANC, we must meet with the SCCP, and whatever approach we have for the local elections next year, we need to make sure we're all on the same page. We can't afford to be divided. So I think for us, that's a critical issue. For us, this isn't the end of the road. There are further discussions must take place with the SCCP, but also we want all of us to sit together in one room to say, as the alliance, this is how we're going to manage the elections, and to make sure the alliance emerges victoriously in the local elections.
From the SAPC in Debo is my name. We know that COSATU at some point was not really happy about the NDP itself, the National Development Plan. And you say, Matthew, that it has been some time now that you guys are not meeting. Are the issue of, for instance, your labor brokers, because I know it's a thorny issue when it comes to you as an organization that represents workers. Are you going to raise that with the ANC? It has been on the table for some time. It seems the ANC has been ignoring that. Are you going to raise that, and will you take anything lesser than the scrapping of labor brokers?
Yeah. Look, we always raise workers' issue with the ANC, not just today. We raise it at the ANC, Lekgotla, we raise it in Parliament, at NEDLAC, and so forth. to see how can we strengthen our labor laws. So we've recently concluded engagements at NEDLEC on how to strengthen workers' protections, including workers who work for subcontractors, including workers who are still under labor brokers. It's about also how to ensure we enforce our labor laws, be it the UIF, be it the basic conditions, be it the LRA. We have good laws, often we struggle to implement them. We've had engagement with the government about how to increase the number of labor inspectors from 2,000 to 20,000. But also it's about making sure we deal with culprits, delinquents. So you see the Minister of Labour has been working with COSATU, raiding various workplaces to deal with delinquent employers. So we always raise our issues where we're not happy. We raise it privately, we raise it publicly. ANC, in fact, ANC asks us to do so as well to help them keep on their toes. But also where we think government is doing well, we also raise it as well. There have been progress. We have seen we've overcome load shedding, we are stabilizing Transnet, we are rebuilding SARS. So there's good things as well. But I think one big issue we always want to raise is that how can we deal with unemployment? Because labor laws are difficult to enforce when you have 12 million people who are unemployed, who will be desperate for any job. So one of the issues we always raise with the ANC, with government, parliament, etc., is that can we expand the public employment programs? Can we really give a pathway to employment for young people? We can't afford to continue with 12 million people who are unemployed.
And I must also just indicate that it's precisely why this matter is on the agenda of this meeting, to present to COSATU the economic action plan, which really is an accelerated service delivery aimed at creating or addressing the challenge of unemployment in the short term. And of course, there are policies that are in the long term. So we are really open to engagement with COSATU. It has always been the tradition. Nothing gets spared where discussions, including where there are differences. But the majority of the relationships is of such a nature that we've always been able to find one another. COSATU, of course, has got a number of other platforms through which they raise matters, as you indicate, Matthew. But I think let us allow the meeting to proceed. We will issue a statement at the end of this bilateral, where we will then state some of the key decisions, of course, with the agreement of COSATU.
Mahlengi, just your reaction as the ANC, your GNU partner, the DA, is calling for the scrapping of BE, your reaction. And to COSATU, it seems like you've been a bit quiet, especially on the decision of the SACP to contest elections come next year. You are a partner in the alliance. Why have you been quiet? And just to generally your feeling about it and that decision that they have been emphasizing that no matter what, they're forging ahead with this decision.
That was my next question as well, even for COSATU. Can I just plead? I know it's tempting to look at us, we're beautiful sometimes.
Yes.
But yeah, actually, let me come to that side.
We must know you.
Let me carry them. Please.
If I may respond, the idea that the Democratic Alliance foresees a future South Africa that is without transformation laws, starting with the triple BE, is an idea that must be challenged by all democracy-loving people and patriots, many of whom are beneficiaries of this particular policy. We have a lot of excellence. The people are rising in the corporate sector, people who have risen in the public sector as executives, people who have risen, women that have climbed the corporate ladder in the entities as CEOs at ESCOM and elsewhere. Many of those people are proudly beneficiaries of Black economic empowerment. And so we will not have a situation where that happens on the part of the ANC.
In other words, because they are saying they are going to be putting in a bill before Parliament. From your side, you are completely against their proposal, or you are prepared to hear them out and say, perhaps we can tweak here and there?
Well, I suppose we are a country that is founded on a culture of dialogue. If the DA was sincere about its intentions, they would be part of the national dialogue process, which they have boycotted and abandoned. But any other platform where dialogue must take place, the ANC is always willing to engage. All I can stress, though, that there will not be a day in South Africa where BEE is scrapped as a legislation. Where there are amendments, I'm certain that like any other piece of legislation, amendments are acceptable for as long as they do not deviate from the substance of that piece of legislation.
What's the workers' view on this proposal to scrap the BEE?
We would never agree to it. Transformation legislation like broad-based black economic empowerment, like employment equity, didn't fall from the sky. They're a specific response to 3.5 centuries of discrimination, where 90% plus of society was denied access to resources, to career opportunities, to earning a living and so forth. So they are a necessity to deal with those issues. When we have come to the point where they're no longer a necessity, when we've reached an equal society where we don't have legacy of discrimination, you could have that discussion. But for the time being, we need it. There always will be tweaks. Bills are acts are amended all the time in Parliament to strengthen it, to address loopholes, to address implementation issues. That's fine. But I think for us, the principles remain critical. Often people assume BE is about a few wealthy individuals, a few billionaires. It's not. It's about providing an inclusive approach to everybody, women, including white women, by the way, people with disabilities, black persons, etc. People often forget that 500,000 workers have benefited from BE through the employee shareholder ownership program. So this is what it's about including people in the economy and addressing historical legacies.
In fact, it's really quite disappointing that in 2025, we are still dealing with a party that wants us to take us back to racism and to apartheid and discrimination in our country. A party that seems content with the current status quo, where levels of inequality are really high, and which is why we need transformation and why we need enabling laws for transformation to happen. I saw a tweet by Helen Zille suggesting that Afrikaners pulled themselves by their bootstraps and built themselves up. She doesn't understand why others can't follow that example. That is indicative of the dismissiveness with which parties and other right-wing groups in South Africa have for the need to normalize and equalize society. And that is why I stress that there will not be a moment where the African National Congress will not defend transformation legislation. It's not just the triple BEE. They've gone to court to challenge employment equity laws. They've gone to court to challenge a number of laws, including the Expropriation Act. And so it is our responsibility, our generational and our historic responsibility, those of us that can influence decisions, to protect what has been fought for and to also undo some of the things that have not worked. And that is why this bilateral is so important to the African National Congress.
But their argument, the Democratic Alliance, is that BEE in large seems to have benefited those who are politically connected to the African National Congress. And they say expand the cake so that even ordinary South Africans can benefit. They are not saying they oppose transformation. Is it untrue that largely people who benefited are those who are politically connected to the ANC?
I'm not certain what is the evidence, whether this assertion or allegation is backed up by real evidence or real science. The truth of the matter is that you have a lot of black women that have secured employment as a result of affirmative action policies. The truth is that you have increased black faces and Indians and coloureds in various sectors, particularly the public sector, because that's where affirmative action has worked the most. I'm not certain that public servants are members of the ANC.
All right. Okay. Final question from the SAPC. When, with all said and done, do you have a listening partner in the ANC? And I'm saying this against the backdrop of the number of challenges that we're having in South Africa, for instance, the rocketing unemployment, the gap between the rich and poor, with the most unequal society in the world. And over the years, you've been raising your concerns, especially in terms of their policy formulation and articulation. Are they listening to you?
Yeah. Look, relationship with the ANC, with the SCCB is like any family. There's ups and downs. At times, we would love them to listen a little bit better. But we can point to many positive things. So a progressive constitution or progressive labor laws that protect the rights of millions of workers, that's a product of the ANC, the CCB, COSATU alliance. Didn't fall from the sky. People might say, well, that's many years ago. We can point to the past 5 years. We have a national minimum wage, which has raised the wages of 6 million workers, from the farms to restaurants to construction sites to petrol stations and so forth. That's a product of the alliance. We can point during COVID-19, when we were under lockdown, we managed, working with government led by the ANC, to release 65 billion rand from the Unemployment Insurance Fund, credit-free, to 5.7 million workers to help them buy food, take care of their families. That is a product of an alliance engagement. The SOD grant, which came out into effect during COVID and which stopped, we intervened with government to make sure that it is reinstated. That's a product of having a relation with the ANC. There is many frustrations, but we can also point to many victories as well. The 20,000 labour inspectors who are being hired, that's a product of us being able to engage a Minister of Labour. The Public Procurement Act, which is going to deal with corruption in the state, we've been able to achieve that through government. Even since September last year, the two-pot pension reforms came into effect, putting 60 billion rand into the pockets of 3.5 million workers. We're able to resolve that, have difficult conversations, but because you have a relationship with the ANC. Nothing is perfect. At times we love them to do better. We bluntly say that. At times we must also do better as COSATU as well. But we can point to many victories. This is why we're saying our relation with the ANC, with SCCP, the alliance remains valid as today as it did in 1994.
All right, just the last one from my side. Tomorrow there's going to be a joint portfolio committee meeting in Parliament between the Portfolio Committee on Tourism as well as on the Department on Employment and Labour to discuss the employment patterns, particularly within the tourism sector, because there are concerns that that sector seems to be prioritizing illegal foreign national for employment. And this is not the first time this matter, by the way, is before Parliament. I recall in 2021. What is the position from COSATU's point of view and the ANC, because you are in government? Let me start with you.
Sure. Look, number one, we have laws. The laws must be implemented at all times. The law specifies for a migrant worker, you must have documentation, must be approved and so forth. The position you're being hired for, is it listed under critical skills and so forth? Could it not be performed by South African? Also on a socio-economic basis, we have 12 million South Africans who are unemployed. 43% unemployment is rising all the time. And we've seen many employers, not just in tourism and hospitality, but in the farms, restaurants, construction, petrol stations, etc., hiring undocumented migrant workers because they can exploit their vulnerability, their desperation. They will violate all the labor rights, from minimum wage to overtime, etc. And that is a ticking time bomb. We need to manage it correctly. There is a bill which Cabinet recently approved, the Employment Services Amendment Bill, which is going to set specific quotas to different sectors of the economy. It's going to empower the Minister of Labour to also reduce that quota and so forth. But we have to be a rule of law country, so employees have to be dealt with when they break the law. And that's why we've welcomed additional labour inspectors. We welcome the joint inspections by the Department of Labour with COSATU to make sure we enforce this law.
I really do concur with everything that Comrade Matthew has said. But I also just want to say that I think South Africans should welcome the hands-on and frontline work that is being done by the Minister of Labour and Employment insofar as enforcing the laws and the regulations that we have, the raids that we have seen, labour inspectors that are now in the front line. Clearly, the work is visible and it's being received, and with what we expect more as the African National Congress. Where there's undocumented persons in a workplace, the employer is liable, the undocumented person is liable. Laws have got to be enforced. Thank you very much, colleagues.
All right.